Hello, and welcome back to things no one, or maybe some people, cares about. Um, so last video, oh, my last real video, I've been uploading some like playthroughs, but last actual video, I made a Professor Layton tier list, and I got a lot of comments about your guys' own opinions on the game, and overall, it made me realize that tier list was just like a little fun thing I did, kind of just like based on my own like gut instincts of like which games I like better, and like there's no problem with that, but you know, it just got me thinking a little bit. And so like seriously though, like thank you guys for all the comments you leave because they really get me to think about the Professor Layton games in new ways, and that's just honestly such a blessing given that it's in 2021 and in this Professor Layton fandom we are all starving. We do not get fed, we get no new content. But, so yeah, I was reading those comments, thinking about that, and then along with that, I have been watching these really long-form reviews on the Nancy Drew PC games, which I really like, and I've watched them on this channel called, like, Vote for Holt, kind of weird channel name, but their videos are really cool. If you like Nancy Drew games, I really would suggest checking them out. I'll, like, link them in the description. But anyways, in their videos, they have a really cool ranking system that they use, and I thought it would be like kind of really cool to adapt that kind of ranking system to look at the Professor Layton games because I think a lot of the same factors apply. So that's what I kind of think I'm going to be doing because I was like, well, I kind of want to think about these games more critically, more than just like I like this one more than the other one, and I wanted to just like take a stronger look at them. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Today I am going to be reviewing and ranking Curious Village on these factors that I'm going to rank the other games on as well, or kind of reviewing them on, I guess. I don't know. But so the factors are going to be premise, characters, puzzles, music, atmosphere, and then the ending and kind of the wrap up. So, the premise of this game is that Layton receives a letter from the recently widowed Lady Dahlia, and the letter asks for Layton's help in solving the mystery of the Golden Apple. So, see, Lady Dahlia was married to the late Baron Reinhold, who's somewhat an eccentric man. So, in his last will and testament, he states that whoever finds this golden apple and solves this mystery will inherit his estate. So, Layton and his apprentice Luke, who we are meeting for the first time, are going to this town of St. Mystere to solve this mystery. Once in the town, though, the mystery kind of shifts when one of the residents, Simon, is murdered. And we're not really, like, directly charged with, like, solving this, but it is kind of there. But, again, there is, like, another detective, I forget what we decided on last time, Detective Chalmy? You'd really think I would know this by now, but I like to change it up every time, so tell me or kill me. Who knows what I'll say. But he's the one there investigating this murder. We see some other mysterious things happen, like we're essentially locked inside the town. We see one of the servants get kidnapped and then like mysteriously reappear and not remember any of this. There's this huge scary tower that everyone says we can't go near. We're almost crushed by a big scary Ferris wheel. It's all very mysterious. Overall, I love this premise. On the face, it's almost kind of simple. Like, you know, we're here to solve an issue with a will, and that's like a pretty common mystery. Like, that's very like Scooby-Doo-esque. That happens in a lot of Nancy Drew games. That's a very common premise, but it turns into so much more, and I just really love that. I love that it's a simple premise, it's not scary, it's not intimidating. Some of the other games, which we'll get into, like have some really crazy premises. Like the one I'm thinking of is Unwound Future, like that's just crazy, but this is like simple, or so it seems, and I just love that. I also feel like the mystery develops at such a natural pace. Nothing ever feels like shoehorned in or forced anywhere. Also, the stakes feel pretty low, and I really like that. Again, I think it's such a nice like entree into the Professor Layton franchise. So sorry if you see me typing. So yeah, I love that. I love the premise. So now we're going to move into characters, and obviously I cannot go through every village character, there are just so many, but I am going to go through the main characters in the game in this section, and I will touch on characters again later in the premise. So obviously we have Luke and Layton in this game. it's our introduction to these characters, and I really think that this is a great introduction. We really come to like very quickly understand Layton's whole like gentleman gimmick and brand, and Luke just seems like a very sweet like little apprentice. We don't really see any big character developments for either of them yet, but I think that's totally fine. You know, it's the first game, and that stuff mostly comes in the prequel trilogy, which again I think is fine. So I think it's a great introduction to them. It's the first game, we're really just starting to get to know them. This is also like where we first see that Luke can talk to animals, which I still maintain is just like a weird little thing they throw in there, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So in terms of like actual characters in this game, we have Lady Dahlia. She's the woman who summoned us to St. Mystere, and I really love Lady Dahlia. I do feel like she's kind of underrated in the fandom. No one really ever talks about her, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think it's just because she's not a very, like, fandom-targeted character. Like, you're not really gonna get, like, fangirls or fanboys over Lady Dahlia, I think, but she is such a well-written character, and I really love her. So on the surface, like, she's very bossy and commanding and like obsessed with her cat and very on this whole vibe of like everyone has to do what I'm telling them to do. But we learn that she's very like sweet and has another side of her. She's super sweet with the Baron's daughter Flora, who we'll get more into in the endgame. But Lady Dahlia has a very subtle sort of tragedy to her. So spoilers, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this video, but starting now. Spoilers, at the end of the game, we learn that all of the villagers are automatons or like robots. And Lady Dahlia was made to be the replacement for Lady Violet, who was Flora's mother and the Baron's first wife who died of, oh my gosh, scarlet fever? No. One of those diseases that was like very like common in like the 1920s. Oh my god, this is gonna kill me. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing that Edward Cullen almost dies of. Oh, I can't remember. Whatever, it'll come to me later. But yeah, so this is like really sad, and so she was an automaton made to replace her, but upon seeing just how like identical to his dead wife she was, the Baron had her memories and personality erased. Like, she was originally like programmed to literally be Lady Violet, and that very obviously freaked out the Baron. It freaked out Flora, and we read about that in some like letters that we find around that we later learn are from a man named Bruno. But anyways, so she has these memories and personality erased, but what's really sad is that they're not like fully erased. Like, some of them come back to her, like some of these memories, like Violet's memories, come back to her, and she just kind of thinks that they're dreams. But when she talks about these memories or these dreams as she calls them, she gets like really sad and like somber, kind of wistful for this like, and like longing for this life that like was never actually hers to have. And it's just such like a gentle moment of like, I don't know, tragedy and like sadness. It's really something. It's something that, it's this feeling that these games get, like, they do so well, and I think that Lady Dahlia is kind of an underrated moment for that feeling. So now we'll get into Bruno. Bruno is the man who made all these automatons, and he's the one who's been kidnapping the villagers, like I think I mentioned, but in actuality these aren't like kidnappings. He's actually been taking them in for repairs. And we learned that, so that's why the servant I said who got kidnapped, he like returns with no memories. He was just getting repaired, and he's like, I'm literally fine. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, so we learned that Bruno was Baron Reinhold's really close friend, and that's why the Baron tasked him with making this whole town of automatons and protecting Florida, blah, blah, blah. I'll get, again, more into that in the endgame, but it is important for Bruno's character. Bruno is also kind of a tragic-tinged character in a way. Besides Flora, he's the only resident of this town who's alive, and in that way he's like kind of living in a town of ghosts. Like, to be fair, I think I'm like kind of projecting a little bit. Like, Bruno is kind of a gruff man. Like, he doesn't really seem that sad about this, but like he even stays maintaining these automatons after the end of the game. But like, I'm sad for him, so I still feel like he's kind of a sad character. Next we have Inspector Chelmy. And this is kind of weird. So we meet Inspector Chelmy in this game, but halfway through, or not halfway, basically at the end, we realize that he's actually Don Paolo in disguise. Don Paolo I'll get into in a second. But the weird thing though is that besides the fact that Chelmy like hates sweets and like gets his wife's nickname wrong in this game, he's basically identical to the real Chelmy, which like I guess is just some great acting and like intel gathering on the part of Don Paolo. But it is kind of funny to me that Don Paolo got his personality like to a T, but like couldn't be bothered to learn like what Chelmy calls his wife. I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny. But either way, the Chelmy in this game is pretty great, and again, a pretty good introduction to how the actual detective will be when we meet him later. He plays kind of like this good, like, hard detective who, like, thinks he's the only one who can, like, get the job done, but he's, like, always a step behind. I wouldn't call him, like, arrogant, like, or super bumbling. Like, if you've played the Nancy Drew games, he's not like a Tino Balducci character, but he definitely thinks he's better than he is, or maybe he just thinks that everyone else is more inept than they actually are. Like, he constantly thinks Layton is inept, and again, not just in this game and other games, but I don't know, that's kind of an introduction to him in this game, even though he's actually Don Paolo. So getting to Don Paolo, aka the man playing the detective, he's pretty cool in this game. I do have some issues with him, which I'll get into later in the end game, but character design is super cool. He has such a classic villain design. He's got this crazy hair that like looks like an evil mustache, but like the hair version of it, kind of. He wears this like sick cape with the collar. Like, he just looks sick. He's always surrounded by smoke, kind of. He's like, he does all these disguising things. I love him. He's very cool. Again, I have problems with him that I'll come back to, but we come to understand towards the end that Don Paolo knows Layton somehow, and is like his self-proclaimed arch nemesis, even though Layton is like, I don't know who you are. It's so funny. It's kind of like the Lego Batman vibes of like, why won't you say I'm your arch nemesis? Like, I don't know. It's great. But yeah, he like really hates Layton, and we don't know why in this game. We figure it out later in other games, and I have issues with that, which I'll get to when we get to those games. But speaking on this game alone, I think Don Paolo's character is very cool, and we have a very cool introduction to him. Kind of really sets up a cool opening, like it opens the doors for some great character development with him later down the line. Whether or not it lives up to that potential is a whole other story, and when I get into Endgame, I'll get more into Don Paolo's purpose in this game, because honestly, I love him as a character, but I don't feel like he should be in these games, and we'll touch more on that later. The other villagers are they're just great, you know? Nearly all of them are kind of over the top in some sort of way. They're almost like archetypes or like stereotypes. We have the very nervous but like loyal butler Matthew. We have a chef who's like very food focused, and his name's Crouton. We have one of my favorite characters. I love Stash and Scarfin. Funny guy, love him. Anyways, he comes up in other games. We have another character that like kind of just appears in other games. His name's Pavel. He's like this hopelessly lost traveler. He's not technically a villager, but I love him. And they really seem like a whole ensemble. You have characters talking about other characters and like kind of interacting off screen, sometimes on screen, I think. But I can't get into all of them. There's so many, but I'll touch more on them in Atmosphere. So now we'll get into puzzles. The puzzles. Naturally, this is a puzzles game, so of course I'm going to talk about the puzzles. I think that the kind of sentiment in the fandom is that the puzzles in the original trilogy are really fucking top tier, and I gotta say, I agree. I'm really in that camp. Curious Village is such a wow moment for puzzles, not just in the series, but I play a lot of puzzle games. That's kind of my favorite genre of games. Nancy Drew is also kind of a puzzle mystery game, and when you compare those two, wow, it really is insane just how many puzzles this game has, and how many good puzzles. There are so few flops. Akira Tago, the man who made all the puzzles for this game, really was just such a genius. Like, rest in peace, because we really will never see another man like him in our lifetime, I think. I feel so lucky, honestly, to, as a person who loves puzzles, it's such a gift to be in the same lifespan as him and to get to play the puzzles that he came up with and created. anyways, back to this game specifically. One of the things I think is like super important is that the game does a really good job of introducing the character, or the player rather, to the types of puzzles in the series and the whole logic of these games, as well as kind of easing you into the puzzles throughout the game. So there are kind of like the vibe of a lot of the puzzles in these games is just that they're very clever, and like they're very out of the box type puzzles. Like, they're kind of like trick questions sometimes, but this game does such a good job of introducing you to that logic, and once you get comfortable with that, you get a sense of like identifying like which puzzles are like gonna be tricky like that. You get a sense of like really paying attention to the wording and the premise and the explanation of the puzzle and being able to pull that out. And these types of puzzles can be really difficult, and like sometimes, like, when I can't solve them, I get kind of petty. I'm like, that's stupid, like, it's just a trick question. But when you do solve them, you feel so clever. Some puzzles that kind of fall under this category that I always think of in this game are the how many are left, like, candle puzzle, the too many mice puzzle, which is so funny because that's like a mice breeding problem, and it gives you all these facts, but then it tells you you only have one mouse, and, you know, birds and the bees, mammals can't reproduce with just one. So you could spend literally like hours doing all these permutations and like counting and stuff, just to be like, no, it's just one, you idiot. It can't breed alone. And that kind of contrasts with like there's a clock puzzle where you have to like, I'm pretty sure that's in this game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in this game, where you have to count how many times numbers, like 3 in a row, will appear throughout the day on this clock. That one, you actually have to put like nose to the grindstone, count out all those numbers, do all the work. So not every, you know, tedious puzzle has like some like, haha, tricked ya, fuck you, like twist kind of, which I think is really important because again, not every puzzle is like that, but the ones that are really clever. I think the other one that I was thinking of is like the laziest man on earth puzzle. That one's kind of like cheaper, but I like that. Also, there's so many just like various types of puzzles too. There are logical puzzles, chess puzzles, hidden object puzzles, sliding puzzles, math puzzles, get the object out puzzle. It's like literally there's a puzzle for everyone, which is again is just so impressive. You'd be really hard pressed to find somebody who played this game who didn't find a single puzzle that they liked. That being said, there are always going to be puzzles you don't really like. I don't really like the kind of like math logic puzzles. I don't mind doing some math, but for example, I really hate the camera and the case one. For some reason, I can just never wrap my head around that one. I love the place the queens puzzles, which are like kind of historical puzzles, historical chess puzzles, which is another cool thing. These games always kind of bring out kind of historical like classic puzzles. It's so cool. I love that one. I love the liquid measuring puzzles, like the like milk and juice ones, which I think is another like kind of historical classic puzzle that Akira Tago kind of just like comes up with new versions of and like new iterations of, which is super cool. I love the wolf and chicks puzzle, another historical one, and I love the get the ball out puzzle. Probably a hot take. People either love or really fucking hate this puzzle is the princess in a box puzzle that comes towards the end game. Another one I really hated is the puzzled aliens one, where the answer is like a compass, but like the one that like a compass that draws a perfect circle. And because you have to actually write out that answer, and I don't like that one just because I did not know what that kind of compass was as a kid. And there's nowhere in game where you could like, I don't know, there's no like poster or something where you could see that solution. And so it kind of sucks, because you need to know what a compass is to solve that. And I think that's honestly one of the only games in the whole series where you actually have to have some sort of like outside knowledge to solve the puzzle. I think in Miracle Mask there's a solar systems one, and I haven't played Azrain Legacy as much, so there might be one in that. But I'm not counting. I don't know. Let me know if you guys can think of any other ones that you actually have to have outside knowledge for. But that is so impressive when you have a whole like puzzle games where there's over 100 puzzles in this game, and there is one that might be impossible for you to solve if you don't know the answer, if you don't know what a compass is. That's so impressive. And another point that I kind of said in these games, about these games and their puzzles, is that they do a really good job of easing you into the puzzles. They fairly steadily increase in difficulty, and difficulty of the puzzles is measured in Pickerots, I feel like the Pickerot grading system is super reliable. It's fairly standard throughout the game, and throughout all the games until we get to freaking Catriel's Mystery Journey, which we will get to way later, and I will hate getting to that. But for the first 6, at least the first 3, I think all the 6, super consistent. You know what you're getting into when you see 15, 30, 60 Pickerots. Like, you know what each of those are going to bring you. And you're not really slammed with a hard one too early on. They really ease you into that, and I think that's really cool. Bottom line, puzzles in this game rule. They are so varied. There are so many ways to solve some of them. They really give you all the like full breadth and latitude to think creatively and to think outside of the box. You're very rarely like forced to solve something a specific way. I can't think of any puzzles really that you could come up with another solution that isn't accepted. And to me, the mark of a good puzzle is if it's easy to understand the premise of, but challenging to solve, and extra points if it makes you feel really clever. And I think all these puzzles are super well explained, which again does become a problem in Catriel's Mystery Journey for me. And although I guess that game is good because it reminds you just how amazing these games are, the first 6 are. But anyways, I feel like there's maybe a handful of puzzles that don't fit into the category for that. Like they I don't know. I'm sure there's maybe some puzzles that are kind of poorly explained, or you know, there's the alien one I talked about that you can't really solve if you just don't know what that is. But besides that, man, I really can't think of that many puzzles that are hard to solve. And again, that's so impressive when you think about just how many puzzles there are. And I'm not even counting like the Layton challenge puzzle house that comes after the game if you've completed it. So impressive. Can't speak highly enough of the puzzles in this game. Now we move on to music. And the music, oh, the music is so good. Just so good. Music is gonna, I don't think there is a Professor Layton game with bad music. I do think some are better than others. But all of it's great, and this game is really truly amazing. There's some like downsides which I'll get into, and I'll link a playlist for the original soundtrack below. Layton's theme is first seen in this game. Obviously it's the first Layton game. Such a good Layton theme. Really just speaks Layton. I will say, I feel like the Layton's theme is like a bit more, it's like too intense to be just for like the character Layton. I feel like it's got to be just for like the theme of the Layton games, not actually like the character. That's just my opinion. It's got some great like accordion, I think, and like most of the music in these games is like all acoustic. It's like accordion, piano, violin, some like there's some like little tinkling. I don't know if it's like triangles or chimes or whatever, but so good. Again, all of the songs are like made using those instruments, which just creates this like really cohesive feel that really helps the atmosphere, which I'll get into in the next section. The main theme for this game, Curious Village, is really good. I'll play a little bit of it here. To me, this theme really epitomizes kind of the like whimsical mystery aspect, and it's not too dark of a theme or anything like that, but it definitely kind of communicates like a suspicion, or like, I feel like this song really communicates like that, and the soundtrack as a whole, you really get the feeling like there's something that you're not getting all the way. It's this dreamy, like whimsical vibe with some darker tinge. I really love the Reinhold Manor track. It's got the same instruments as the others again, but it sounds like very sad and somber, and it throws this just something really cool in the game to something that, I mean, I think every soundtrack should do, where it really affects how you're interpreting everything that's going on, and it throws this pall over all the events and conversations that it plays over in Reinhold Manor, and like with all the Reinhold, like, you know, Lady Dahlia and everything. But it really makes it pretty clear that the Reinhold story does not have the happiness that you might associate with this sort of opulence and wealth, and there's just, I don't know, it's very sad, so I'll play like a little bit of it. Then I also love the Ferris wheel park theme. It is a bit more happier than the other ones, but again, it just communicates this sort of sadness. Like, it really is the perfect song for an abandoned amusement park where there's just the memories of kids playing. And one of the last songs I'll mention is the Tower song. It's dark and creepy, but not in like an immediate, like it's not like a danger theme or anything like that. But it is good. I'll play a little bit of it there. I also want to mention the credits song. Ooh. The credits of all of these games are just a fucking gut punch. Oh my god, they're always so sad. But in just like the most beautiful way. Oh, these games do bittersweet so well. Listening to this credit theme, like, you really feel like you're just saying goodbye to good friends that you won't see for a very long time. Like, I'll play a little bit of it. But if I hadn't made it clear, the music in this game is just amazing and just the perfect background music to play while studying and doing other stuff. I listen to it all the time. That being said, the one downside that you could kind of point out is that a lot of the songs do tend to blend together. There are very few standouts. To me, this is like somewhat of a negative. In some other games, like, there are songs that I really pull out and that really stand out to me, but I think this can also be a positive, especially when looking at the whole atmosphere, because again, it feels super cohesive. That being said, let's actually get into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere of this game is so hard to put a finger on, and I mean that in the best way possible. It really just feels like a dream, and to me, this is how the whole first trilogy kind of feels, but really, this game and the next game, Diabolical Box, just feel like a dream. It's this kind of like somber, wistful whimsy. There are a few breaks in that kind of vibe, which I'll get into, but you really feel this like the second you step into town. Everybody seems nice, but like a little odd, a little weird, and like over the top in just a weird way. And you know, there is a sense of like some sort of danger, although you never really feel all that in danger except when you're like about to be crushed by a Ferris wheel or whatever. But like, you know, somebody does lock you into town. There's the murder, there's people going missing. There's always a sense of like mystery and the slightest bit of danger, but you always feel like kind of like an observer. One thing that I think this game and the series does really well, but I think this game does it a lot better than some of the other games, is giving you this vibe and this whole feeling like the entire town is keeping a secret from you. It never really feels like there's one character who stands out for lying to you, but it just feels like they're like a kind of conspiracy, like there's something the town doesn't want you to know. You always feel like you're this outsider who's about to step where you shouldn't. And I love that. And again, I think music plays such a huge part in that and in the atmosphere of this game. Like I said, the music has the same sort of dark, dreamy, whimsical sadness going on, and that is perfectly the atmosphere of this game. The colors of the game match this vibe too. Everything is sort of this like muted, foggy earth tones. It's very like smoky, super pretty. I love the art style in the first three. It's perfect. The whole ensemble of villagers adds to this also. Everyone's just a little bit weird, and it's super bizarre that everyone is constantly asking you to solve riddles and puzzles, and this is like evident in the game. It's like diegetic, like it has a plot related reason in this game, which I think is very cool. Obviously all the other games are puzzle games, but this is, I guess, maybe an Azran Legacy too. This is the only game though that really, like, the puzzles have a reason for being there that's answered by the plot. And I love that. The next main thing for the atmosphere is that damn looming tower. It's visible nearly everywhere, anytime you're outside, I think, in the game. And it really does just loom over the whole town and the whole mystery. So one little rant I am going to get into is dealing with the navigation, the difference in navigation between the first three, maybe the four, I can't really remember with Last Vector, and then later. Okay, I realized I was not really making sense with what I was saying. So if we like compare the two of the like standard navigation screens, I'm just gonna do like one from Curious Village and then one from like say like Miracle Mask. Like in Curious Village, what happens most often is that your bottom screen, which is the screen that like you're most often looking at, or at least the screen that I'm most often looking at, is actually like a point of view section, like looking at a section of the town, and the top screen is like a small segment of the map of the area that you're in. But this segment is like, I don't know, it's still very like stylistic and like pretty visually appealing to me, and not like, doesn't really break like the fourth wall, I guess, which will make sense when I get into the Miracle Mask part. And then what happens in this game when you're talking to people is when you talk to people, there's like the top screen switches from the map to like other pictures of like the town, like POV. Now in Miracle Mask, it's switched, so like the bottom screen is the map with like these little like dots that you can click on to navigate, and that's how you navigate. And then on that is like a little sprite of like Professor Layton or whoever's in your party. And then the top screen is views of the town, like the POV views. And then when you go and talk to people, what happens is the map stays on the bottom of the screen, and then the top is the dialogue with that character. And to me, something about this like feels less atmospheric. I'm not sure if it's just because it's like a map that you're constantly looking at rather than the POV. I also don't really like the like map style. Like I really hate the dots. That's what I was talking about. To me, it's very like in your face that like this is like a game navigation. Whereas with the like Curious Village one, the navigation felt very like, I don't know, more like real. It felt more like immersive. So that's kind of my point. I don't know. There's something I can't quite put my finger on, but I really feel like the navigation in these games really helps build atmosphere. I don't know if it's what's going on the top screen in terms of what you're actually seeing and it being more like atmospheric, pretty drawings, or what. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on this, because it's something I feel, and I feel very strongly, but I don't have the words to match the conviction I'm feeling. But I really feel like that helps. But yeah, anyways, back to the tower. I got on a rant. The tower, you see the tower all the time. It pops up a lot. It pops up in the top screen a lot. You see it all the time. And then on top of that, everyone's like, oh, if you were thinking of going to the tower, don't do it. Don't do it. You can't go there. Don't go to the tower. It's dangerous and you can't go there. And you're like, okay, now I have to go to the tower. But that, again, the fact that everyone's mentioning it, it just goes back to this atmosphere of like everyone's keeping a secret from you. And I don't know, you just know it has something to do with the tower. Some of my favorite locations in this game are the tower. I do love the tower. It's creepy, but not in like a really scary vibe. It's just cool. Also, one thing I really like is from the construction of the tower, it's kind of like visual storytelling where for the most part the tower is like empty and kind of like shoddily put together. Like from how it's put together, it's very obvious that it doesn't really serve a purpose besides just being scary, keeping people away. Like the whole tower is not filled up with stuff. It's only filled up with stuff once you get to the top, which I'll get into in the end game. But I think that's super cool. I just love that. I also really love the park, the amusement park. It's so sad. It's such a good just like sadness that you get again just from the setting. You do learn that like Baron Reinhold like built this whole like park or whatever just for like to make his daughter happy, and then you go there and you have this like sad somber music but that's like still kind of cheerful, and you just get the vibe of like past happiness that is long since been gone. I think it's just beautiful. I also really love Lady Violet's grave, although sadly you can only go there in some cutscenes. I do think the one break in the atmosphere is Don Paolo. He's such a character. He's a character I go back and forth on so many times. But to me, his whole like thing just brings this sort of goofiness that does not mesh with the whole vibe. again, the rest of the vibe, like, you have over-the-top characters. You always have that. But all of them still kind of have this sense of, like, mystery and, like, I don't know. Don Paolo's over the top in a different way, and he has like these like slapstick moments kind of that, like, even though other characters are over the top, I don't really feel like you get slapstick characters with them or moments with them. I don't know. There's something that just, he really sticks out. I don't know. So we're done with the atmosphere. Sorry, that was kind of rambling all over the place, but the atmosphere is great. Now that we're done with the atmosphere, let's get into the ending. So the end game, I would say, there's kind of a long end game, but the end game to me begins when Layton unmasks Don Paolo. So, because kind of starting from this point, all the other mysteries are resolved. So what happens is that we're called back to the manor where Kelmy, oh, I really gotta figure that out, accuses us of murdering Simon. Layton then reveals that he's actually Don Paolo in disguise. We kind of like trick him into, I don't know, we catch him in a lie, kind of, that lets us unmask him. And at this point, he like jumps out the window screaming about how much he hates Layton, and then this is kind of one of those like slapstick comedy moments that's just like, who is this for? But anyways, after this, Luke and Layton kind of head to the tower, finally, where they meet Bruno at the base of the tower. And Bruno, again, is the man who we saw kidnap the servant Ramon, and here he finally tells us like the full story. All the villagers are automatons, built by Bruno at the behest of Baron Reinhold, and they were all built to protect the golden apple. Again, that's what we're here to find, is the golden apple. It gets not lost, but fades into the background for a bit. But yeah, that's what we're here to find. And these automatons were built to protect this and to test those who seek the golden apple. So that's why they've been asking us all these riddles, and that's why in the game there are like checkpoints to see how many puzzles you've solved, and that happens in later games too. But again, in this game, the puzzles and these checkpoints like have a reason for being there, that's explained by the plot, and I really love that. So we set off to sort of like climb the tower and find the golden apple, and while we're climbing, we work through some of the other mysteries, like how it was Bruno who locked us in the town, and how Lady Dahlia was built to replace Lady Violet. There's also, again, a lot of storytelling in these like pages that we found throughout the town, but as we climb the tower, we kind of put together everything we've read and seen and everything like that. Once we get to the top, we have this cool reveal that's at the top of the tower. It's a very normal, very beautiful house, and this is the only part of the tower that's really fleshed out and cool, and like decorated and stuff. We go inside the house and we meet Flora, the Baron's daughter who we'd like heard about and seen pictures of. She's here, and we realize that she is the golden apple. She must be the treasure that the Baron wanted to protect. But we don't have much time to like think about this or talk about this, because then Don Paolo like is in some flying machine and like smashes into the side of the tower. Again, I don't really like the vibe. I don't know. I feel like this kind of ruins the atmosphere. I don't know. But anyways, the tower starts crumbling. Very clever escape. Layton does his grab and roll thing that he does in every game for some reason. But we return to Reinhold Manor after this. Here there's a really cool reveal. Basically, Flora has a birthmark at the base of her neck, like right like here kind of, that is only visible when she's laughing, or when she's kind of like laughs or smiles. In the manor, there's a portrait of Flora San's birthmark, and Layton kind of realizes like maybe this is a puzzle too, and he pushes the place where the birthmark should be, or we do, that's another puzzle, and voila, a secret passage opens, revealing a huge treasure, that's like the Baron's wealth or whatever, and an audio message from the Baron plays, and here he kind of tells us that he wanted Flora to be in the care of someone who could make her laugh, and so he set it up so that the treasure could only be found by somebody who could do that, and reveal the birthmark and like put two and two together. Moreover, he tells them that if any of the treasure is taken, it triggers this like very like Indiana Jones like weight trap thing where if the weight is like changed or whatever, the villagers would stop working and the whole town would kind of grind to a halt. So Flora chooses to leave the treasure and leave the town as is, kind of as a way of thanking and repaying the villagers for years of looking after her. And Flora leaves with Luke and Layton, and all three keep the secret of Saint Mystere. I love this ending. I think it wraps everything up nicely. I do have some issues with it, mainly around like two issues. One is like the villagers. It's never really explained, like, as far as I know. I've looked for this every time I've replayed, and And I think some of you guys commented on like my longer Professor Layton timeline about this. But honestly, I don't think any of your explanations, like I got a few explanations, but I couldn't find anything backing up what you guys were saying, so I don't know. No offense to you guys, but I love fan theories, but I couldn't find anything in canon kind of explaining this. So if you do have any like in canon answers for this, could you like kind of cite your sources, like let me know where you got that, because I really want to know. But anyways, the problem is that I don't really know when the villagers stopped being real. Like, were there never any real people in the town besides the Reinholds and Bruno? Like, were these automatons based on real villagers who once lived here and then moved away or something? Like, I don't really mind these unknowns too much. Like, I'm willing to kind of let those slide, but the one issue I really have a problem with the more I think about it, and I've talked about this a bit, really lies with Don Paolo, because the more I think about it, the more I feel as though there's really no purpose into this, in him being in this game, and I don't think he fits this game at all. He only causes, like, atmosphere breaks and issues with that. Like, once we realized that Simon was never murdered, like, it's not like Don Paolo murdered Simon. Again, Simon just collapsed, like, an automaton failure. But Don Paolo realized this and used this as, like, an excuse to insert himself into the Golden Apple investigation and into the town. And he also kind of uses this as a way to, like, throw suspicion onto Layton. Again, he does accuse us of, like, murdering Simon. But I'm not really sure what his plan would have been. Like, if he got to this town and didn't see Simon dead on the floor, because he got here after the gate closed. He flew in on his flying machine. But if he got here and didn't see that, was he still planning on disguising himself as Detective Chelmy or what? Like, and again, he knew this whole time. Like, he realized pretty early on that these were automatons. Because again, he realized like Simon was not ever like alive. So I don't know. I have a lot of questions about that. And also, again, like I said, in Atmosphere, he kind of just breaks the whole somber, dreamy, whimsical vibe. He's just goofy. In a lot of ways, he almost feels like he was written for kind of like 4 or 5-year-old age range to enjoy. But the rest of that game is not targeted towards that age range. I would say the rest of the game is like, I think it's like recommended for like 12-year-olds and up. And even that I would say is like kind of younger. It's a very sad, kind of serious game. And I think Don Paolo just seems super goofy. Like I said in the character part though, I could understand if they have a whole like longer term plan for Don Paolo and his relationship with Layton, which he does come back. But, and again, they're setting it up that way, but like I'll talk about in later games, I don't feel like he's really necessary in all that either. It almost feels like he's written into the later games to explain his hatred for Layton here. I don't know. Again, I'll get more into that later, but I don't understand why he was here. I think they just felt like they needed to have a slapstick villain, which I don't necessarily agree with. And again, I think he just lingers in later games as a way to explain that. Because later games, honestly, I don't know. I don't know. We'll get more into it. But I don't think he has a purpose here. And to me, I feel like the story would be just as strong without him. I guess he destroys the tower at the end, but even that doesn't need to be done. I don't know. I don't think he needs to be there. Other than that, though, I really like the ending. I think it's really cohesive. I think it explains a lot. It adds to the whole kind of like, or it concludes and wraps up the whole kind of like sad whimsy. The fact that Flora's just been like waiting there this whole time for a guardian. Although she does leave. We see her around town a couple times, but she's been alone this whole time. And the fact that the Baron did all this because he loves his daughter so much, he wants her to be in the care like of a good person. Although I feel like he's basically entrusting her to Bruno. Why not just make Bruno her guardian? I don't know. Kind of weird parenting vibes, but that also gets picked up throughout the whole series, as I've talked about before. But I do really love that this game starts out on a very simple premise of, you know, finding a treasure in someone's will. That's such a classic thing, but it turns into something so much more, and it's so creative. There's really nothing like this story. I also love the idea that the 3 of them are leading together and that all of them keep this secret because, you know, no one can know, otherwise the town will stop moving. So now that I've gone through all those things, I guess I'll return to like the traditional rating on like the S to F tier. And I don't even remember how I ranked all these other games because, like, when I did them previous, because my memory sucks with stuff like that. So, I don't know. Go back and check if I even I guess I'll check back at the end of this series and see how this compares to my original rating, but it is complicated. You know, this is the first game. I feel like you always have to give first games kind of like leniency, because I don't think this was really written originally planned as a trilogy or something. I think it just did so well. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but the puzzles are amazing, the premise is amazing, the atmosphere is amazing, the music is amazing, I love the characters. Again, honestly, I just think that Don Paolo and Chelmy shouldn't be in it. I think, because I also just hate thinking about the fact that Don Paolo knows all this too. To me, it doesn't make sense, really. Don Paolo seems like the kind of guy who would go back and try to, like, steal the treasure and fuck up the town. I don't know. To me, I really love the idea that it would just be Luke, Layton, and Flora who know this, and no one else. I think that's great. But he knows it too, and it ruins it. I don't want him to know it. I don't want him to be here. I feel like I've done a really big 180. I was like, I like Don Paolo, and I do. I think he's a cool guy. Not for this series, though. I don't know. He's very important plot-wise in the next game. In the third game, kind of, too. It's just in this game, he doesn't really serve a purpose, and I think that's a pretty big downfall. Because other than that, I love this game. I feel like, though, this game has to be A tier. I think without Don Paolo, it would be S tier. But I think otherwise, everything's great. It's got to be an A tier game. So that's how I'm ranking it. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on any of this, anything related to the game. Again, I'm going to continue the series and go through all the games. I don't know. I definitely need to, like, replay some of them, though. I haven't yet decided if I'm going to do this for the Ace Attorney crossover. Seems really difficult to me, and I'm definitely going to have to adapt this once we get to Layton's, or Cattrall's Mystery Journey, and I do want to do Mystery Room. Also, I've been doing playthroughs of Ace Attorney. I've just been uploading those playthroughs to my YouTube channel, like not editing them or anything, so it just would take a lot to edit. But if you want to, like, check me out on Twitch, my Twitch is Leachy24, that's like Leachee 24. I don't really have a schedule yet, sorry. I'm not really making it the easiest to, like, watch me stream, but that's been kind of fun. It's fun. I've never really played the Ace Attorney games before. I've watched some other people play them, like, I don't know, I've, like, popped in here and there on some people's streams, but it's basically a blind playthrough. So if you're interested in that, follow me there. Also, you should give me a follow, because I am planning on streaming the Professor Layton games and Alfendi's Mystery Room. I just need to figure out some, like, technical ways of doing that. So I don't know. I gotta figure that out. But I am planning on doing that. I'm also planning on streaming Nancy Drew games, which, if you are a fan of the Professor Layton games, I really think you'll be a fan of the Nancy Drew PC games. If you haven't given them a shot, do it. They're so cheap. You can buy them on Steam. If you want to play those, I would recommend starting out on probably The Captive Curse or Legend of the Crystal Skull. Those are good ones to start out on. Sorry, this is a big outro. But anyways, thanks for watching. Check me out on Twitch if you want to. Or not. Watch the playthroughs if you want to, or not. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just kind of uploading anything on this channel that I feel like it, because that's how it started off as. But yeah, anyways, let me know what you think about Curious Village. Let me know if you have any thoughts, any, like, conflicting opinions. Love to hear it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!